Hey Lee,
Jesus. Hello.
can you hear me?
Yep. Yep. Hey, Jesus.
Hey,
Good
how are
morning.
you? Good morning.
Good. I'm good.
Awesome.
Well, oh yeah. Oh, there's so much to keep up with.
Hello.
Aditya.
Yeah, hi. Hi, Lee.
Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening.
See, I don't. It's a little known fact around these parts that I am more or less incapable of saying good evening at this early an hour. But since I already got to say good morning to Jesus, the good evening was possible.
Yeah,
Well, hey, while we're hanging out, Aditya and everybody else, slap your name into the meeting minutes. This will help us get organized a little bit. Also, if you have topics, put them on in. While we'll spend one more minute before we get started, and I'll say, Husseina, it's nice to see. I was in the Kubernetes SIG network Slack yesterday and saw a familiar name. So it was nice to bump into you over there. I was about to say hi and I got shy.
Yeah, actually, we had a meeting in VMware. So they were asking us to contribute. So they have given these channels to follow and join. So I joined.
Nice. Okay. Sounds okay. Sounds like you chose to challenge on that one. I'm sorry. Okay. It's like it's the last time. This is the end of the month. I had to get one more in.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Good. That's something. That's pretty cool. And I suspect, given your focus around networking, that, like, hey, that's a natural place for you to, was the direction, was it general encouragement toward open source projects that are relevant and interesting, or was it like explicit direction? Hey, there's a couple of goals, particularly within networking within Kubernetes or
So they were just asking for contributors to join within VMware, internal folks to contribute.
okay, specifically to SIG network?
Not
Or,
really. They shared a lot of other,
yeah,
I mean, SIGs as well, right? So,
yeah, nice. Well,
I,
Aditya, or no, Hussein, go ahead.
so I am interested in networking, so I chose SIG network.
Yeah. Well, Hussein, let's make that a topic, if we could. There's a couple of other things I want to tell you or offer to you. Okay. All right. We're about 5 after, folks. We are about 5 after. I'm just getting a smile on my face, seeing some names that like Anirudh. That just tickles me. Good. Okay. All right. Hey, so somebody else should host this call. Clearly, I'm disorganized. It's the 26th of March. We record our community meetings. This is the Layer5 community meeting. We have a meeting every day. Some of those meetings, almost all of them are on the community calendar, which is linked somewhere in here. Here. Which, by the way, if you want to, so this will let you subscribe to it. But as a random piece of information, if you go to meet.layer5.io, you'll get a different version of the calendar here. You can subscribe to it here in your calendar client. Also, there's a nice quick reference. And I've highlighted this fact a few different times. The reason I feel compelled to is that URL, meet.layer5.io, I don't think we really have it written down, like published anywhere. And so it's easy to, but it's such an easy thing to remember, especially for many of you who join multiple calls, like Jubril, who was just on yesterday's CI call. So nice to see Jubril on today's call. Jubril, there's a number of people on this call that haven't gotten a chance to meet you. Can you take a moment to introduce, say hi, and
hello everyone. My name is Jubril. I'm from Nigeria, first year university student. I really like the Go programming language a lot, and I'm interested in cloud native and DevOps related things. So nice to be here.
nice. Oh, nice. Jubril, all right. Well, I have yet to figure out the thing to make, to like harass you about, to just, to make you feel warmly welcomed, but I'll find it. Anyway, nice to have you, Jubril. Thanks for introducing. Good to have, frankly, just like good to have another African. There's quite a few Nigerians who've joined, and quite a few, a number of other countries in Africa that are more toward the western part of the country, whose names I cannot remember. Anyway, yeah, that gives you some insight as to how geographically challenged I am. Ruth stands out, who's on the call, as Ruth also being in Nigeria. Correct, Ruth? I'm not getting the country wrong.
Yes, you're correctly.
Okay. All right. Good. All right. Then we also have Aditya, who hasn't had a chance to introduce on this call before.
Hi, Lee. I'm Aditya, and I'm currently pursuing my final year in computer science and engineering. I'm from Bangalore, Karnataka, India, and my hobbies are my interests are basically full stack development and Android app development. So I guess that's it.
Beautiful. Nice. Yeah, good to have you. Nice to have you. Hey, what's the deal? When do you say Bangalore and when do you say Bangalore?
Like they both are the same, but if people don't know, wouldn't know if it's Bengaluru or it's Bangalore. So if they know Bengaluru, that's the term which we use around here. And Bangalore is like the common worldwide known name kind of thing.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah. So you can tell if they're an outsider if they say Bangalore.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. All right. I didn't know I was exposing myself. Nice. Anybody else new today? Nope. All right. Well, just before I forget, we actually Bangalore, Bengal is was top of mind because of Kubernetes Community Days. So we should talk about that. So hey, welcome everybody that's new. Welcome back everybody else. Um, we we will oftentimes list out folks individually here. There's an item, a couple of announcements. So there's an item that happened this last week. Abhishek, do you want to talk about this first one?
Hey, am I audible?
Yep.
All right, okay. Uh, we just recently released a 5.0 version of Meshri, which has got a significant changes, or we can say enhancements. We've got two new components introduced in this build, which is Meshri operator and a mesh sync as a controller. So I'll explain what they are actually. So when talking about mesh sync as a controller first, uh,
Wait.
we have, yeah.
Uh, you know what? So sorry, I got you all mixed up. Actually, just the announcement, I guess, about the fact that it.
Okay.
But but your topic to go in depth below.
Oh,
Just
sure. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah. Um, but so yeah, I'm a little disorganized today. I apologize. There's one other item though that you Abhishek, you and Asuko, maybe Michael had been working on. Let me share it. It's a blog post. There's a draft of that. So let me share that. And you can talk about it for a moment. This blog post hasn't been released, but yeah, here you go. So so maybe high level, the what was the if you
Okay. Just a second. I'm just opening the blog post for my reference.
yeah. And actually I'm sharing it now if you can.
Oh, okay, sure. So we've introduced a new adapter for the traffic service mesh, which was earlier called, I don't remember. Can you remind me, Lee, what was it called earlier?
Well, everybody, it looked like it was spelled Maish. Um,
Oh yeah, correct. Mesh, Maesh, and it has been so that an adapter has been created for the traffic mesh, which is a part of the 5.0 release, and there is a so it is in its beta version. There is another adapter that got released, which is for the Nginx service mesh, which is also in the beta version, and yeah, we are kind of accepting PRs in there. So if anyone is interested in, they can start with adapters as because they are relatively a very simple code base. And dynamic injection of rumor. Oh yeah, we've introduced a Meshri plugin system, which is basically to dynamically load any remote provider plugin, which has a specific functionality that Meshri doesn't do. And we've on under the hood we've used different technologies like Go plugins and dynamic loading of React components, etc. So that's another place that that can be explored. So apart from that, there's Meshkit, which is already there. I don't think there's anything new in there. There is certainly mesh sync, which basically helps Meshri to sync the cluster state with um, sync with the cluster state. I'll come back to that when my turn comes. I say. And Meshri operator, which manages different controllers or different custom controllers inside Kubernetes. I'll come back to that as well. And Meshri's got a new GraphQL endpoint, which is being regressively used in a couple of components in the dashboard. Uh, and apart from that, Meshri's state management is done with a very small scale database called SQLite.
which is a part of the Meshery container itself. So that's another feature that got introduced. And apart from that, I guess that's pretty much for 5 release, I would say.
That's it. That's all that's all you guys did. It's a major release. Wow. Okay. For some of you might have questions on all that big mouthful. So Abhishek, you'll speak in depth a little bit more on some of those. But all of the links that I was just pulling up, those are all available in the community drive. So, which means they're all available to all of you. So so we need to get the word out a little bit. We'll finish up that blog post, have that go out. We'll certainly share that. I think Asuko was considering writing a blog post on dev.to, but the more blog posts, the merrier, or the more noise, the better. That noise will be hopefully coincide with the consideration of Meshery and service mesh performance for adoption in the CNCF. So both of those projects have been put up for, or are being proposed for donation in the CNCF. And so this coming Tuesday, there'll be an evaluation of sandbox projects, which is the level at which we've proposed Meshery and SMP. And so, so next week we'll know if it'll be a big moment for the projects. It won't really, or it won't at all change what we're doing here, or how we do things, or the roadmap for the projects, or any of that. As a matter of fact, it might actually change the roadmaps a little bit, only because there will be more activity. One of the things that's that's happened for something like, well, both Meshery and Service Mesh Performance, is that IBM and Intel, and maybe Google, but IBM and Intel for sure have said they're just waiting until the projects go into the CNCF so that they can come and participate, which is great. I have my doubts about, anyway, about Google participating. We'll have to press it upon them. But that brings us back to the topic, Husseina, about SIGs. So Husseina, there's you might have been on this call before. Have you been on a CNCF SIG network call?
No, Lee, I have not joined yet.
Oh, okay. Not that, just so that you're aware that it's there. And it's the reason I'm mentioning it. One is because you're all invited to go to the CNCF SIG network call. There's a lot of times we end up discussing we host the service mesh working group in the CNCF SIG network, and in there we actually talk about, well, your projects a lot. Actually, we talk about SMP, we talk about Nighthawk. We talk about service mesh conformance, SMI conformance. So it's not only a place to discuss the things that you all are working on, but it's also a very, very friendly place because they're your projects. So Hussein, I thought I'd just point it out because, like, hey, you're like, in a lot of respects, like, if I were in your shoes and someone were to suggest that, hey, maybe that would be a new thing we should go do, is go contribute to some of these projects. From my perspective, it would be like, yeah, I've been doing that for months and months now, like, and specifically in networking as well. So, like, yeah.
Surely, I'll try to join that as well.
But I guess there's a lot of things to do inside of the SIG network, more than I can handle, which means that there's an open role for a tech lead. or maybe 2 tech leads. So Husseina, just word of warning as you join and poke around, like I will I will make some things available to you. Okay. Next topic is, so by the way, if anybody wants to know, like, hey, where, if you want to know where that meeting is, it's actually just go to meet.layer5.io. There's a link to the meeting minutes for the CNCF SIG network and the Service Mesh Working Group. And so, we've got a few KubeCon talks coming up. I think 2. I don't know, maybe 3. And so, again, this is a potential place to participate. I think Drew jumped in last time and participated in one of them. But we will be talking about what we're doing inside the CNCF SIG network. And so we'll be talking about these projects, your projects again. So that's great. There's a Kubernetes Community Days has been kind of a small. It's been a small. It's not brand. These aren't brand new, but they've are now being taken much more broadly, and many new ones popping up. And so there's a KCD, Kubernetes Community Days Africa, whose call for papers, I think, ends in 5 days, I think, and another one for Bengaluru. Both of which I would love to see people in this community submitting to. Let me know if I can help, or let me know if you're going to do it, and I can certainly help. There's a lot of stuff to talk about. While we're on that subject, well, I'll try to bring up where it is that the other KCD days are coming to, and where some are proposed for. I just had I'll bring that up later. Okay, let's switch these topics around a little bit so that it's not just me talking this whole time. One is perhaps Ruth, totally putting you on the spot on this. If I bring up, I figured you might be able to introduce the newcomer questionnaire, and then we might be able to just reflect upon some of the responses. Kind of talk about the newcomers meeting on Thursday and the ongoing topics that we have, and whether or not we've got some tutorials coming up.
Okay, hi Lee. Hi everybody. So I've got some music around me. I hope I'm quite audible.
Yeah. Sounds like you're having a party.
Yeah. It's sort of a cocktail party, but it has not started yet. Yeah. So we have, for those that are not aware of the call, every Thursday, which we had one yesterday, which we had a full, there was like a full, we had quite up to 7 persons joined the call, which I think Jubril was part of those persons. And we usually have these calls on Thursdays, where it's just a way to introduce newcomers to the project, where people, a safe space where you can ask questions, and we also do tutorials during the newcomers call. But for a while now, we've not had any tutorial come up because we've not actually had persons to giving those tutorials, right? We've had tutorials in the past, and also on the page you'd see a list of tutorials. Lee, if you could show that, the table for tutorials on the site itself. So we have a couple of them, but looking at these responses here, you see that there are still some which we have not really covered up on. So I would love volunteers. So we have a couple of topics, right, that have not been covered, like introduction to service meshes, how to evaluate service mesh performance, how GKL websites work, introduction to Gatsby, and all of them, right? So if you want to take up a tutorial, don't worry, it's not something scary, right? We'll take you through the process of creating a slide and giving the tutorial, just a 30 minutes tutorial. So if you want to do this, which is like a call for volunteers, so you can hit me up on Slack, or you can just put it up in the newcomers channel, and yeah, I'll and anybody is welcome to moderate the meeting and be part of the newcomers meeting, right? So you can also contribute as per hosting the call or showing up or answering questions from newcomers in newcomers channel. So yeah, so that's like basically it all. I'm sorry for the music once again here.
No, I'm sounds like you're having a good time. I've got a bit of FOMO going on. Nice. Well, thanks for that. So some of you are already aware of the newcomers meeting on Thursdays. It's not a one-time thing. You can hang out in the newcomers meeting as long as you like. There's also the Meshmates program. So Ruth is a Meshmate, and so in amongst a number of other things that she does in the community, she and other Meshmates dedicate some of their time to helping people who have questions, who want to get introduced to the projects, who want to get a sense of what all is going on, who need access to different resources. So introduce yourself to a Meshmate if they can be of help. Good. I'll just reinforce the fact that Ruth was calling for volunteers for tutorials. So in the past, she and others have helped organize a steady flow of tutorials on technologies in that Thursday meeting. And most of them, not all of them, but most of them are listed in this table. We're missing one. And actually, it's an opportunity for any of you that want to contribute to this site. There's an open issue to list out another tutorial that was given. This site, if you're unaware, is open source and was created by this community. And so as such, it's still maintained by this community. So there's an opportunity to contribute right there. Okay. Hey, as a note, speaking of the community and speaking of these projects being evaluated by the CNCF, one of the ways in which people and the CNCF measure the popularity of a project, of an open source project, is by count of stars on GitHub. So I'll say this, that if you're in this meeting, then take a moment, if you would, to at least slap a star on 3 repos, like the Meshery repo, most notably, secondarily, the Service Mesh Performance repo. And the other one would probably be this Get Nighthawk repo. I mean, slap your stars across all the repos, that would be great. But I guess I won't be shy about asking you to do that. Hey, if you're here, hopefully you're learning something, you're being built up, you're giving back to others. Hopefully you end up enjoying the community and the projects. And so asking for a star is the least you can do. No. But yeah, put your star in there. It helps. It's not a great metric, but it's certainly a metric that everyone uses. So it'll help. It'll help the projects get into the CNCF. All right, next topic up, Utkarsh, databases in Meshery server.
Yeah, so this is just a quick update. So we So not that mystery server is entirely using SQLite now. So mystery server earlier used to use Bitcast for storing everything, just as we sharing on the screen. But now recently we have started migrating that storage from Bitcast to SQLite. A lot of things are being now stored in SQLite. For example, performance profiles. Mesh sync is something that was the main, that is something which brought SQLite, so that we can store mesh sync data into database and then can do smart queries on it. But now Mesh servers, other components are also starting to leverage this SQLite database. So recently we moved to performance profiles and service mesh performance results into SQLite databases. A a few things like user preferences. Those are still being stored in Bitcast, but they'll be definitely moving to SQLite database. So why are we moving it? Actually, Bitcast is a good database, a good key value pair database, but it doesn't offers the basically good querying capabilities which we actually need. So we can do hacky stuff which we were doing, so that Bitcast can do some kind of queries, but it's a very minor abstraction on top of file system, just do the serialization and those kind of stuff. So that is a main motivation due to which we are moving towards SQLite, so that we can do good queries using SQL. So basically leveraging SQL as much as we can in Mystery server, just like a few like other cloud providers may be doing. So yeah, this was a quick update regarding the databases that Mystery server uses.
So, if you don't mind me asking questions, why exactly SQLite? Like, there are okay. Do you perform any complex querying, or is there a necessity for it?
So the queries are not necessarily extremely complicated, but they are certainly complicated for Bitcast. So if you're performing joins or something like that, then so if you're using Bitcast, then first Bitcast also has trouble because it's just a very minor abstraction of a file system. So if you want to read something from it, so it will acquire a lock and then won't let anything else read through the same file unless until it's the lock. So yeah, basically we can do same kind of queries using Bitcast, but it's extremely hacky because it's at the end it's just a key value pair database. You can provide it a key, it will give you the value, but then you will have to go and basically do stuff in Go so that you get the data that you are asking for. But SQLite that offers SQL, and we do certain kind of queries which require multiple tables to so basically we need access to multiple tables at the same time. Mesh sync uses that, and performance profiles are also using that. Ordering, so a very simple example is that we used to order the results. You can order the results by like when they were created or when they were updated. Doing this in Bitcast again is possible, but you retrieve all of the data into the memory and then you actually sort it in memory and then push down the results. Now, if you have SQLite, you can just use SQL to order data. So these are a few things which we could have done using Bitcast, but definitely not the ideal way to do so. So that is the reason we use SQLite.
So yeah, no, that part was fine between Bitcast and SQLite. That part I sort of understood, but what I didn't get was SQLite itself. Okay, I'm not sure if you're going to run into this issue, but when you handle multiple users and multiple access rules, right? Like you have a lot of issues. At least I personally faced quite a few issues. So would you face something like that while down the line? So if you want a particular user to, if you want a particular authentication method for a particular user, and then there is one sort of super user or a user for meshery to interface with the system. So when you're sort of dealing with these multiple what do you say, access points or people or systems accessing it, you might run into issues with SQLite itself. I'm not sure if I was clear enough. I don't know if it's going to be an issue also. So
I think I understand, but I don't know if I mean, that could be certainly could be a use case that is providing access based on the users. That is
Mhm.
certainly going to be a use case, I believe. But I'm not sure where exactly we keep getting stuck using SQLite. So,
Okay, I'll do one thing. I'll look into that aspect where I got stuck a little more. Hopefully, I'll be able to frame it clearer, and I'll be able to get you that information. Then we can see if it's truly an issue.
yeah. And
Cool.
yeah, even if yeah, so I hope we don't have to migrate from SQLite to some other database. But even if we do, thankfully we are using BOM, so that is kind of database neutral. Uh, it- yeah, hopefully we don't. But I
Yeah.
think at least I think this
Fingers
one has
crossed.
potential. Yeah.
Very good.
Yes, sir.
That's a good.
Yeah.
Pranav, to be honest, I wasn't listening to the conversation. I apologize. But was Postgres the suggestion? I'm just guessing.
Postgres does solve that issue. From what I know, I had to in my project, I had to switch over to Postgres because SQLite wasn't cutting it.
Yep.
But then again, just shifting the entire thing to Postgres would be another hell in on itself. So I'll see if that issue is truly going to be an issue. So if it is, then we might have to switch to Postgres or something equivalent. If it isn't, then it's peaceful. We can still continue using SQLite.
What problems were you having with SQLite?
Okay, so it doesn't behave well in multi-user environments. For some reason, the access I mean, this was an issue about, I think, a year and a half ago. I don't know if they fixed it. The exact issue, again, I don't remember. But that's the rough gist of it. Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah, it does.
okay, so that's the problem I was talking about. All right, yeah, Utkarsh, I'll check on my end and I'll let you know.
Okay.
Mr. Patel.
Hey, hi. So the update is we recently updated our specs for the SMI conformance tool to the latest SMI spec, which is 0.6.0. And we have now changed our site to load the dynamic data which we have. So if you go to the Layer5 site, you can see the results for each of the service mesh for the latest spec of SMI. And if you hover over them, you can also see the detail of where they failed, why they failed. So that is a quick update on that.
Yeah. It without context that this is a new spec, the average user or visitor might think that this spec isn't doing so well because there's a bunch of red X's across. But given context that this is new, then or that there was an update and a shift in how it works. So OSM, Open Service Mesh. What do you know?
Yeah, exactly.
They're doing well. They're doing good. Okay. Wow,
Yeah,
cool.
so like as you said, the problem here is still we haven't implemented a versioning for the SMI test which we are running. We are basically updating it to the latest spec which is there. But probably in future we will have a way in which you could go back and see whether it is compliant with 0.5.0, 0.4.0 and stuff like that. Because a lot of mesh over here I have not upgraded to the latest 0.6.0 spec. So like for as you can hover to traffic mesh itself, you can see that it has failed at step 4. That means that it has capability for traffic access, but it has not capability for the V1 alpha 3. They most probably have capability for the previous version, like V1 for now we are at ASMI at traffic spec. So the current version is V1 alpha 4, but since they are failing over there, they have capability for V1 alpha 3 in that case. and few of them are failing at the step on itself, which means they don't have the capability altogether for the spec.
Mhm. It's an interesting. So to ask about this a bit. So here, okay. So as a visitor, as someone reading the report, somewhat intuitively, I begin to understand that, like, hey, there's that all tests have passed. There's a full circle here. They're fully, capable. That, oh, okay, they're, they've got partial, they're partially passing, but there's a failure along the way. And so, Drew, this is mostly commentary. I don't expect that we actually do anything about this, but just so traffic mesh made it so far with traffic access, kind of up to a certain point. And it also made it like up to a certain point with traffic split. But the icon that's used.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's because like traffic split has more number of tests than traffic access. So like if they haven't lived up to the half of the test, then they won't show half of the if it's half compliant or not. Like it's a loose way to
Got it.
describe this. I'm like in the next release, I would suggest rather that if they don't fail the first step itself, which is to see whether they have the traffic access resource itself, then they should give a half partially compatible. Like let's discuss this later. I guess that might be a better case
Got it.
of
Okay.
showing it is partially compatible than like doing it half of the test cases.
Makes sense. So on
is there? So,
No, go
really
ahead.
sorry. Yeah, is there a page somewhere listing the tests, like what all
Yes,
is
it
being
is.
performed? Right. So, do you think it will be useful to have, instead of a half check or something, you can have like a sort of sub list or something showing what tests have passed and what have failed? Because some people might not want the entire, what do you say, the compliance entirely, and maybe just one of the use cases, perhaps. I'm not sure that this might be a total edge case, but just for that sake, does it make sense?
Yeah, it does actually. Like the current thought in our mind was that basically they will see that which test case is failing, and they will come over here and see which particular test case is failing, and they could like view in detail what is happening. But to upgrade the table to show which, like, it makes sense if all like we like currently what is happening is like if one of the tests is failing, it is not checking for the rest of the tests itself. So like you know that up to this point all these things are passing, and after this point all these things are not checked itself because this was failed over here. So like doing that would only make sense if like we were continuing with the test if one test was failing itself. Like that's what I think.
Yeah. So to rephrase that, one thing that that if that is not obvious, Pranav, to you or to others, is that what Dhruv just said is the tests themselves are run sequentially, and so if you see a tooltip that says, "Oh, you failed at step 4," then implicitly you're green from 1 through 3, and then it's at 4 that you've now. But Pranav, to your point, like, oh, okay, well, it took me explaining that to you to actually understand that, and then so like there's room for improvement on, and so actually that room for improvement brings up a topic, one that I forgot to cover earlier, I believe, or that I moved it down below. So we may as well just jump to it real quick. And that is that many of you are familiar with the fact that we participate in internship programs. We do a lot of internships. Some of you are interning right now. We do internships directly through Layer5. We also do internships in combination of Layer5 and these other communities, maybe, or these other organizations. There are some of those are coming up, and some of you have, no doubt, some of you have joined much earlier in interest of those, and some of you are graduates of those. Some of you are interested in them now, and I don't know that we've called it out recently. So now is an opportune time. I'm calling these out in part because some of those enhancements that Pranav is referring to are listed. I believe one of those is listed, maybe not, but could be. Oh, okay. I thought it was listed as one of the potential projects for the upcoming GSOC. But technically not, but some advancement on SMI on the same area, in this case for multi-cluster. So defining a new spec. So there's some of the project ideas for this year for GSOC are posted here. I will have more LFX projects coming up. And we just applied for GSOD. The GSOD one is really intriguing to me. Some of you may be saying, what? Documentation intriguing? What? Well, actually, like, documentation is extraordinarily important. So get off your high horse if that's what you're thinking. But in this case, this particular project is, well, it's really cool. Actually, it'll be one of its, well, not one of a kind. It'll be related to something like this. If you've seen Play with Docker or Play with Kubernetes, which I know Austin ends up using a fair bit, which is great. We're going to make a Play with Service Mesh, Play with Meshery, and it falls under the documentation category, if you will. So that's actually what the proposed project is about. It will be running Meshery as a service, basically, but then wiping it clean every, hour or something like that, whatever, 2 days, whatever it is. Something else. Oh, little known fact. Actually, Ruth was talking with a newcomer, Ravjot, earlier yesterday. And part of the discussion was, well, what's the genesis? Why did Meshery get created in the first place? What's Meshery about? What was it created to do? And little known fact. So the maintainers of the creators of this, good friends of mine, this is how Meshery got started. When we first began, the first code for Meshery started here inside of Play with Docker. There was a collection of us that were teaching people what service mesh is and how to do it. And we were using a forked version of Play with Kubernetes to teach people that. Started building off of Play with Kubernetes, and eventually Meshery became its own thing. So there's a fun factoid. We should write a blog post about that. Okay, I remember now. The other thing I wanted to talk about with respect to the internship programs is that many people have the question of, hey, that's great. Like, I see you've got all kinds of questions about how do I best position myself to get an internship, to get one of these or one with Layer5 or whatever that is. Those questions are asked time and time again. There are not all of the answers, but some of the answers here. I encourage you to have a look. I also encourage you to talk to former interns. If you need a list of those, I won't give you a list, but I'll say Anirudh is on the call, or was. He was, never mind. Okay, 2 more topics. Austin, do you want to take this one first?
Yes. Hello, everyone. So I'm quite excited to present or discuss with the community today regarding discuss.layer5 and learn.layer5, because on the lender layer 5, we are yet to get started on design, so which was why Lee proposed discussing it with the community first to know their opinion, what we'll be looking forward to, what we want to look, what we want most to be implemented on both the discourse and the lender layer 5, because they'll be integral parts of the products we are working on at layer 5. And let me quickly move, don't mind. Our workspace is quite large because we trying to work on a lot of things. So for the lender layer 5, I was my major interest right now is knowing what the community looks forward to be implemented, like features we'll be looking out for. Is we're trying to build a learning platform for layer 5 as a whole, but we don't want it to just look plain without us wanting to educate people about service mesh, meshery, and everything without then giving what exactly we want. Because we might, I won't lie, if I design from my perspective without doing the research, which we have in this meeting, we're going to have a disconnect between the community and layer 5. So, which is why I'm trying to first get everyone's input regarding what we want, what we'll be looking out for, features, layouts, and that will spice up the community and then boost newcomers coming in and getting educated, and also we the old timers, sorry for using that word, being very, very involved in the community. And also for the discourse also, since we are making it more interactive, we've added something like a search feature which you can search. It's not up to the standard of Google yet, but we want it to be to the aspect where you can just come and search about Kubernetes and Docker, play with Docker Labs, play with Meshery and all, and you get what you want. Because before we got to this iteration, it was a long process, almost like 5 or 6 discussions went into this meeting. So which is why I'm bringing up the call right now to know what the community wants. I don't know if I could get any inputs right now, even if it's in chat box, regarding what the community will be looking out for. So
have you seen the Istio discuss.istio website, like how it looks and how it functions?
Yes, I have. It was one of our research materials. We use a lot of them. We use the talk tool. We use Relic. We use even the discuss.istio and a couple of them. So thanks for the suggestion again.
Yeah, no. So the look of it is not that great, but definitely seeing the Figma things that yours already looks much better. But the markup support and the certain autocomplete features when you start typing and commenting, that's quite good. I know it will add a lot more work, but it's a very nice to have thing if you could. It's just a request.
All right, markup. Thank you very much, Prinab. I appreciate that input. So if there are more inputs, if you have anything, features you'll be looking out for, layouts you'll be looking out for, things you would like us to add to the design spec, I would really appreciate it. Maybe I might even create, I will definitely create a Google form and then drop it in the community and the website channels. So you drop your suggestions, you drop your inputs. I'll create 2 forms, one for the discourse and one for the land on layer 5, so we could make the projects, all projects we are working on. So I would like to carry everybody along and then make them very successful. Just the same way we launched the new layer5.ng website and the whole community was excited. We want the whole community to be excited too about this, and that's why this presentation was very, very important. Thank you very much, everyone.
Nice. That's great. So implicit to what Austin was saying is that the go participate in the creation of discuss.layer5.io. The design spec is in the chat. Austin and Josh Patel, and there's some others that are participating, Yash, and there's a number of others that are participating, but Josh Patel is saddled with the responsibility overall of delivering it. So certainly ping Josh. He'll be talking more about it in the Monday meetings, the websites meetings on Monday. Austin was giving a prelude to a forthcoming larger project around creating a subdomain for expanding the learning materials that we have. So that'll be exciting. That'll be that. Yep, that would augment play. So learn.layer5.io would augment play.layer5.io or play.meshry.io, that hosted instance of Meshry. So we have 2 more topics, and we'll probably only get to one of them. And so Aditya had. Yeah, let's talk about yours.
So what I kind of had in mind was like, I just went through docs of Meshery, and what I thought was that what if we can move from one framework, which the Meshery, as you had said, is in Jekyll. So what I thought was we can move completely to Docusaurus, and so completely, if we get started on this, we can also implement the Algolia search for our site. And also, as Docusaurus supports internationalization, it might be easier for us to translate into other languages and all. So that's what I had in mind. Hello.
So very good. So so Aditya, this isn't the first time that someone has suggested a potential shift to Docusaurus.
Okay.
There's a number of reasons why we didn't do it in the past, and why I support us. Like for my part, I support us doing it.
Yeah.
Although I should clarify that I support the suggestion, but won't offer any assistance. And I'll explain. So the reason that we ended up staying with Jekyll in the past is because we have like 5 websites now for different projects, all of which are on the same technology, Jekyll. Super easy to get started. People are able to come and contribute, and then some of those people end up sticking around.
Okay.
Jekyll, and depending upon what theme you're using, can be lacking in a few areas. So if Alonso is on, he has, has worked toward bringing like international language support. We've kind of discussed how we can bring versioning to this theme. And so it's been extra work that you would have otherwise probably gotten directly out of Docusaurus. So it's clearly a better framework. And so I'm supportive of that suggestion. What I was trying to clarify is that we've done so actually I'm gonna explain this for just a moment. So supportive, but for my part, now this is just my part, there are many others in the community that may be able to engage and assist. We've been doing a lot of tech debt elimination within the project. So all of the adapters for Meshry, almost all of them have been rewritten recently. We've been working on kind of moving away from Bitcast, getting over to SQL. We've been bringing in a new operator. We've been doing like a lot of stuff on the back end that is the right thing to do, but from a user-facing perspective, nobody really knows or cares. Like it doesn't really change. Eventually, it'll significantly change and enhance the experience and the user-facing features that people will benefit from in Meshry. So I'm using that tech debt elimination as an example of like moving away from Jekyll is a bit like that, like sort of tech debt on, hey, that was the right choice at the time. Maybe we're going to shift to something else. But so for my part, I've spent all of my calories, or I don't have any, for my part, I don't have any space left for. And the issue with, so you're certainly welcome to fork this, work on
Okay.
DocuSource separately, or we can create another repo like you were, suggesting. We can create another repo, and
Yeah.
you can work on that in context of the community, and you can, and we'll tell people about it and help kind of get, help uplift to the extent that we can. What I was trying to say is there's a 0% chance that you will be successful in delivering that without assistance from maintainers here, and expending any amount of energy toward, like, at some point we'll have to, so it's a challenge for us, because it's a good suggestion. We should probably do that. We should probably do it post 1.0, or like after Meshry has reached sort of self-sustaining mode, or reached escape velocity in terms of like lots of users benefiting. Because today the project is well done, but what we see like represented on the community call is 30 something contributors. This is awesome. By the way, way more people than even the Istio community call gets, which really says something about the way that community is run. But no, or very few users represented on today's call, which means we haven't reached PMF, product market fit, meaning like its features aren't compelling enough to keep bringing people back. Now, don't get me wrong, we've had about 1,000 people use Meshry, individual people, and many have come back to use it again and again, but we haven't. But so that's the context in which I want to both be encouraging and then also be a realist and say, even the smallest feature, you can ask Navendu or Husseina or Aditya, that like they were adding a flag just this week on -- silent flag, or -- yes, or something, I forget. And I can't tell you how many times they went back and forth, not back and forth arguing, but back and forth, like refining the implementation. They had to write it down. They had to do peer reviews and etc. And they could have been spending that time creating better support for Kubernetes, which is what is on the roadmap. They're not doing the wrong thing. They're doing the right thing. It's just it's a slight distraction, and it's
okay.
It's like so I'm giving confusing guidance, because on one hand I'm like, hey, for my part, like, what a great idea. Like if it's facilitating API docs and some interactivity with like the APIs of Meshry, and like if it has versioning and international language support and stuff, like actually there's only two detractions from doing it. One is that we lose economy of scope. So today, when Ruth is teaching people about how Jekyll works and how to get going, how to be successful, she does that once, and it works for all 5 of the sites.
Yeah.
It's not just Ruth, but
I get that.
So here I'll lay out the gauntlet. If you can do it for all the sites.
That would be kind of tough, but I would first get started with this Meshry thing, and then move on to the other sites also. Like once I finish with this Meshry, then I can move on to the other sites as well.
Yeah, it's actually, I shouldn't have even said that, because none of the other sites really have documentation, pages and pages of documentation. Most of the other sites they're small, 8-page or less sites. So
okay.
Anyway, thank you, Husseina. I think she had to go.
Like what I had in mind was like if you had gone through this Flutter page, you can run the app and all right there, right? So if we are planning to get a playground for Meshry in the future, we can just try to implement some of the functionality in the documentation itself. Like when just a small bit of that or something.
Oh, sorry. Good. I didn't hear what you said, but
So what I said was like, if you had gone through, if you have seen the Flutter or any other React Native or other sites, they have this playground kind of thing which is built inside the documentation itself. So I thought, I just had an idea like we in the future, once if we move the message docs to some other framework or anything, we can implement this playground kind of thing inside the documentation itself. If people want to use Missouri or just want to get a feel of it, they can do so through that.
Gotcha. Yep, makes sense. Makes sense. All right. We're a few minutes after. We should wrap up. Aditya, thanks for walking through that. I'll follow up with you in Slack.
Okay, sure.
Thanks
Thank
everybody
you.
for the presentations, the discussion today. So nice. That's a wrap. See you next week, same time. All right. Bye all.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Hi guys.
Bye, people.